All right, let's dive into something pretty fascinating. We've got a 1400-year-old text, the Quran, and we've got modern science. How do they interact? Well, today, we're going to look at a very specific method that religious scholars themselves use to explore claims of science in their scripture. We're not here to prove or disprove anything, but to really understand the process.
So, here's the big question, right? Can a text from ancient times actually predict modern scientific discoveries? You've probably seen videos online making some huge claims about the Quran predicting everything from the Big Bang to how embryos develop. But what do the actual religious scholars have to say? How do they test these ideas?
And this is super important to get straight from the start. This whole explainer is not about finding proof. It's all about the process. We're looking at the specific intellectual toolkit, the framework, that some Islamic scholars use to see if these extraordinary claims hold any water. It's a system built on really careful inquiry, not just blind faith.
Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts. To stop people from just forcing modern science onto an ancient text, these scholars came up with a really strict three-point litmus test. Any claim about a scientific miracle has to pass all three of these checks to even be considered.
First off, we need to know what we're even talking about. A scientific miracle isn't just a verse that kinda, sorta aligns with science. No, the claim is much bigger than that. It's a verse that describes a scientific fact that was completely and totally impossible for anyone to have known back in the 7th century. So you can see the bar is set incredibly high.
So here they are, the three big rules. Number one, the scientific meaning has to come naturally from the Arabic words. You can't just twist the language to make it fit. Number two, the science itself has to be a rock-solid, established fact, not just someone's new hypothesis or a controversial theory. And number three, this is the big one, the knowledge had to be utterly impossible to get at the time. If a claim fails even one of these, it's out.
And this quote really tells you why this system is so rigorous. It gets right to the heart of it. The idea is that you can't just interpret scripture based on your own gut feeling or what you want it to say. It has to be based on real knowledge. That's why expertise in both the scripture and the science is seen as absolutely critical. All right, enough theory. Let's see how this test works in the real world. Our first case study is a verse that, on the surface, seems to perfectly describe what happens to your body at high altitude, something we now call hypoxia.
So here's the verse. It's making this really powerful comparison. It says that feeling lost spiritually is like the physical feeling of your chest getting tight, as if you are climbing into the sky. Now the claim is, hey, that's a precise medical description, and how could they have known that back then without airplanes? So, does it pass the three-point test?
Well, according to these scholarly sources we're looking at, the answer is a clear no. This claim fails the test. And the reason why is actually pretty simple. See, here's the kicker. You don't need a 747 to feel altitude sickness. The city of Mecca itself is surrounded by mountains, some of them reaching 2,500 meters. And we know from modern medicine that symptoms like chest tightness can start at those exact heights. So people in the 7th century could have literally climbed a mountain and felt this for themselves. That means the knowledge wasn't inaccessible. So it fails condition number 3. The verse is seen as a brilliant spiritual metaphor, using a feeling people actually knew, not a secret scientific prediction.
Okay, so that one was pretty straightforward, but our next case study is a lot more complicated. This one's about a verse that claims mountains, the symbol of being fixed and stationary, are actually moving. I mean, listen to that. You see the mountains, which you think are fixed, while they pass by like passing clouds. To our modern ears, that sounds an awful lot like plate tectonics, right? The slow, invisible drift of continents over millions of years.
But here's where it gets nuanced. There are two main ways to look at this. The classical interpretation, which is the traditional one, says this is about the Day of Judgment. The verses right around it are all about the end times, when mountains will literally be blown away like dust. The other view, the modern scientific one, reads it literally, that right now, as we speak, the mountains are moving. And this timeline is why that modern interpretation is so compelling to some people. I mean, look at our litmus test. The science of plate tectonics was completely 100% unknown in the 7th century. The idea wasn't even dreamed up until the 1800s, and it wasn't a proven fact until the 1960s. So for this interpretation, condition number 3 is a slam dunk.
So what's the verdict? Well, it's not a simple pass or fail. The framework actually allows for this kind of complexity. Modern scholars who feel it meets all the conditions can see it as a scientific miracle. But at the same time, the classical scholars can stick to their interpretation based on the context, and both of these views are considered valid within the tradition.
So, after going through these two very different examples, what's the big lesson here? What's the main thing we should take away from all this? It really all boils down to one powerful idea.
The core lesson is intellectual humility. Instead of just rushing to make some big, flashy claim, this whole framework is about caution. It demands careful analysis and real expertise in both the scripture and the science. It's a system designed to prevent mistakes, not to win a debate.
And this isn't the end of the road. You can take this exact same three-point test and apply it to all those other famous verses you hear about. Claims about the expanding universe, the Big Bang, how celestial bodies move, embryonic development, you name it. Each one can be examined through the same careful lens.
And all of this leaves us with one last big question to think about. In a world where it often feels like faith and science are at war, how does a system like this, a system built on caution, on rigor, on expertise, change that conversation? It kind of suggests a different path, doesn't it? One that values both deep faith and careful reason and invites a dialogue that's built on humble inquiry, not on loud and confident claims.